I like the private chat thing. That was fun.
Hello and welcome to Welcome Home Radio. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy, whether it's investing, leasing, renting, home insurance, or myths and misconceptions. Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, to help you make the right home buying decision for you and your family, here are your hosts.
And welcome to Welcome Home Radio, where real estate, lending, and learning come together. This is your mortgage market update for March 31st. Stocks are mixed this morning, and mortgage bonds are slightly higher. The ADP employment showed 517,000 jobs were created in March, which is very much in line with expectations for the month. But here's the kicker. February's report was adjusted up 60,000 more jobs. This is the strongest hiring in 6-month showing. Hospitality led the way, and the service sector was very strong. And finally, small businesses are starting to hire in several states that are opening up fully. Pending home sales, which measures signed contracts on existing homes, fell 10+% in February. Year over year, it's very flat. The real story is inventory is very, very low. We're down 30% year over year and not expected to change anytime soon. Rent pricing continues to rise, and we're up 1.1% last month, the largest monthly increase ever. Rents are down where people are not wanting to live, and the largest decline seems to be in the top 5 cities: San Francisco, New York, Boston, San Jose, and Los Angeles. Many cities are seeing rises in rent, and this is where growth areas: Memphis, Phoenix, Riverside, Indianapolis, and Columbus, Ohio. With such a fluid market, many changes happening every day, today's topic really is what is the status and what is the future? And of course, joining me as always, my wonderful co-host, Alan Pace and Tom Hume, Champion School of Real Estate and Fathom Realty. Guys, so good to see y'all. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're a little late coming on, but we're here and going to have a fun time today because a lot of key topics are happening right now that we need to let people get some insight on. And the first one I want to touch on really seems to be an interesting data point I haven't heard anybody talk about. The market right now is seeing not 15% cash buyers, but we're up to 25% cash buyers on contracts. What are we saying here, Tom? What does that say to you in the market?
Well, it's got to be a reflection of the fact that there's just so much out there with regards to people moving from other marketplaces where they've achieved and sold their house. Sorry, got a little bit of a problem here. But they've sold that house and their cash has become king in the marketplace. And I'm sure Alan will reinforce this, that, it's just an incredible piece that we've never seen here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, like we have ever before, where you're getting offers that are thousands and thousands of dollars substantially above the asking price, and it's cash. And it's I to this morning, if you follow the business news, the Dallas Morning News today, we were still 10%, nearly fully 10% up year over year on prices. And that's, I don't know, that's going to put people out of the marketplace. And there was an article I was reading last week about, that there should see some moderation this month and going forward here the next couple of months as far as pricing is concerned. And yet, statistically speaking, everything fights against that. So, people just walked away from their homes other places, and this is the place they're going to stop and drop, and they feel like they can buy a house here for 50% more square footage than they can anywhere else for the same price. It's just meeting the demand.
And it seems funny, Alan, that with the tight inventory, people are paying over asking, but they're seeing a return on that investment. They're saying in 2 years, I'm going to be right side on that home. It makes sense. Does that not? Is that what you're seeing? Is that what you advise? How is this over asking price working for you?
Well, personally, I don't think it's healthy. I mean, I can see it a couple ways. One, you've worked hard, you have the money, you can pay the cash, you can pay extra. I also see it as thousands of people who have done everything right, established credit, veterans, FHA, they've done it all right. They follow the advice of all their professionals, and they can't get into the American dream. There's just no way. So, like stocks, past performance doesn't guarantee future performance. Same thing in housing, always has, always will. This too will change, but it doesn't look like it's going to change soon. And Tom's point about people coming into this market, well, that's true. We've got a world-class airport. We got a world-class economy here. We've got transportation is as good as it is anywhere. And so there's a lot of reasons to come here. But the other cities around the United States, Denver, other areas are booming. And I'm on boards with realtors across the United States, and they are getting multiple offers immediately. The unfortunate part here is, and I don't want to say this incorrectly, but those that have are taking advantage, i.e. the rich get richer. I don't know if that's necessarily the right word, but it's a shame that the Veterans Administration loans are having a hard time right now. The FHA loans are having a hard time right now. And it's difficult to take your offer into a seller and have to face, on a $450,000 house sells for $540,000. It's going on.
Let's talk about that because, Tom, it seems so funny. We've been doing this now for almost 5.5 years. And I remember talking about priority in the market and what is looked at. And so, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Help our listeners understand. Out there in the market, of course, cash is king. Cash offers are always considered very high. Next, it's going to be conforming or conventional loan limits. Next, it's going to possibly be VA, FHA, and of course, USDA is geographically limiting. But the consideration in the priority scales, would you agree that is the rung, the priority levels? If you're approved FHA, you really want to get pre-approved conventional because a conventional offer may be taken over an FHA offer. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. There's a lot going on. Cash obviously is king, but a conventional loan with guaranteed cash difference on appraisal is king too. So if I can bring you a $500,000 offer and have a little piece of wording on a piece of paper saying we'll cover it, if it doesn't appraise, we'll make up the difference in cash. And some people put a limit on it, 10,000, 20,000 over. Others waive the appraisal completely and say we'll pay whatever it is. Not many people, well, that's not true. Many people can do that, but the majority of people that buy houses can't do that. So now we've got a double whammy, no inventory, and we've got prices going through the roof, and we've got sellers in complete charge. I mean, I'm not even kidding you. I've shown a house recently, it's completely filthy dirty. And you had to wait to get in to show it. I mean, it was dirty, dirty, dirty. I'm talking cat litter smell. I'm talking clothes all over the place. And
Okay, look, you need to stop talking about my home that way, Alan. Okay.
Yeah, be nice.
the good news is
Yeah.
that home will sell fast. That home went in hours.
Wow.
People see through the dirt, they see a house, and they go for it. So I love that. I love that about a buyer that can see through that. But on the other hand, what I'm really struggling with, even though I have a home, you have a home, Tom has a home, I talk to a lot of people that don't have a home. They've done everything right, and they can't get one. And that is,
I have 12 pre-approvals right now that have been out there for over 60, almost 90 days and have not found anything. So
right.
let's take a step back real quick, and let's take new construction out of the works. Let's talk existing pending sales contracts. Why do we have an inventory limitation right now? What is it? And I think one of the key things, I'm a perfect example. Why should I move and try to downsize when my home is, I'm very happy where I'm at. My kids get to come back. There's room for them to visit. Grandma loves having the grandbabies there, blah, blah, blah. What are the reasons why people are not moving and that we're not getting the turnover that we have seen in the past? What is those reasons? Outside of new inventory, new construction, why are people not moving as often or as much?
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, statistically speaking, you bring up a perfect point that the average life as far as mortgages were concerned from being sold and from people moving was 5 to about 5.5 years. This was statistically speaking 10 years ago. Today, it's nearly 8.5 years. So we've seen a 50% increase in lifespan as far as people living within a home. And I think a perfect case in point is that we're seeing, well, I think the last year has been a perfect example of why that people can and make their home the place that they actually work out of versus their employer saying, you've got to come into this stick and brick place, this stick and mortar location, and you've got to be here 5 days a week. We're finding that our workforce is not as required as we thought it would be for the interaction. Now, there's some negatives to that without, seeing your fellow workers and being around them. That creates this real void, I believe, in the workplace. I know personally, my wife has been able to make that transition 100%. And yet I know there is probably somewhere in the back of her mind, a little bit of, man, I wish I could go in and interact with people every once in a while. She's not a big interactor, but
I'm noticing Abe's sitting there he's trying to try on new clothes back there. I mean, you've created your home office and, and it is interesting. It is an interesting fact that I think businesses have changed to their dynamics, that my son-in-law is able to do his job that was here in Dallas, and he moved to Colorado, and he's still doing his job from that house.
right.
So it is interesting, but we are making home the place to work as well as the place to live. And I'm just wondering, are we seeing, I haven't looked at it, just thinking about it, is the commercial market changing that much? Because I'm still seeing buildings being built. Cranes are up here in Dallas. What's the status of that?
I think that's a great lead-on question. And maybe somebody we should really look at and pinpoint is maybe a commercial person being on our show here, because of the fact that there's got to be something in that industry that I'm not picking up on. It's just something I must be missing for them to continue with the structure and construction that you noted already, to see that still happening, knowing that these office tenants, these large corporations are going to say, we don't need this space.
It's cheaper. I can keep my most valuable employees and they can work from home out of their bathrobes. I mean, that's a joy. My wife is an example from Frisco ISD. She loves working from home, and she just made the comment, boy, it's fun not having to get dressed until lunchtime.
Right.
So it's just interesting to me that I think we see this impact and staying home or not moving as much. It's really interesting, the data you brought to the table, because it was somewhere around the first time home buyers, 2 to 5 years staying in a home, maybe up to 7, but they were going to, they're going to learn what they really want. Somebody like me, we've been in our home 14 years. It's such a blessing to have paid it off, but we're searching for reasons to move and we can't find them. We honestly can't find them on why we would want to move anywhere else.
Right.
Well, that's because we have a place to move to.
I live too close to the airport to move.
Well, I mean, it's if I sell my home as Alan says, and I talk to many couples, they're going, where would we go? And I'm not ready to move into that 55 and over community. I can't bring my grandkids there. I can't, there's limitations, but I'm also, I like the size of my house. I like the availability for us to do things. And if I sell it, I'm going to spend that much money finding something for me.
I think you asked initially, though, how did it all start? And I want to go back to last year, this time, maybe January, February or whatever, when the pandemic kind of thing hit, the COVID thing hit. So for 2 weeks, everybody was absolutely paralyzed and stunned. Nobody did nothing anywhere. Couldn't touch anything, right? Remember that? Couldn't touch anything. So then we gradually realized, okay, we're not all going to die. We can actually touch our groceries and things like that. Well, the real estate business, nobody wanted to have anybody coming through their house. You don't want to sell a house during a pandemic when you don't know about it. So that's March and April. In May, it got a little better, and June it got a little better. Then I also think at the same time, interest rates hit record lows. You had more people qualified to buy, so they came out of the woodwork. So the few people that were selling, those houses went very fast, and it's just kind of continued on. And I think a lot of people realize just how good they have it in their home and have decided not to make a move. Just like you, Blair, they're happy. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with being happy in life. If you like your home, why are you moving? So
I am so glad to hear you say that you can be happy in life. I really am.
Who wrote that stupid rule?
Hey, I think our head monkey butt wants to join us here real quick. Come on in, Mark.
Hey,
you got a comment?
Well, you guys were just going 90 miles an hour, and I just thought I would chime in on something that I heard in between all that. And I just had so this year, we've been here almost 2 years, and I haven't really done much to this house. So we moved pre-COVID, right? And I think we were very fortunate to move and get the house we want, because the house market here has actually gone up in price, and what houses are available seems to be between 25 and 50K more than normal. And not because they're raking the prices up, they're just the value of the houses are going, because there's so few of them. So people are actually getting the money they really want out of the house. Well, we wanted to start doing some construction. So just 3 weeks ago, I went into a place. I've been trying to put the expenses down. What's it going to cost me to rebuild a garage, a shed or a workshop? And I decided that the garage was going to cost me way too much money this year, so I'm just going to rebuild the shed. Well, I expected to spend somewhere between probably around $8,000 to about $12,000 total from start to finish, top to bottom. 20 by 30 shed area, fully finished and everything for me to put my stuff in. Well, as I started to look at the cost and everything, and because of the lumber, the metaling, everything that goes in the construction part of that, all the costs went up. And some of it went up 2/3. And I was like, where a 2x4 would normally cost you, $3 for 8 foot, it's going to cost you $9 now. And I decided, well, there's a builder supply. So I went down to my local builder supply, and I sit there, and this guy, deer lights in the headlights right in front of me, looked at me and goes, "Can't help you." And I go, "I haven't even asked you a question." He goes, "Still can't help you." And I went, but I got like 15K to spend right now. And so what does that mean? He goes, I go, "You got a full yard out there?" And he goes, "Yes, we do. It's for new construction only. We have customers that we are obligated to help for new construction. And as they continue to build their new construction, we need to be able to maintain that. And no disrespect to you, but you're a DIYer. And so therefore you're going to have to find out the best way you can get it, which is going to be maybe if you're lucky, Lowe's or Home Depot, and you're just going to have to pay, 3 times the cost of the fee." And I go, "But I got money to spend today." And he goes, "Still can't help you." And I was just sitting there, and the manager comes out, and he goes, "Look, are you new here?" And I said, "Yeah, actually I am." And he goes, "Well, so the reason nobody's in the store is because we've sent out emails and letters to all of our clients out there that we're not a retail sales right now. Right now, we are for new builders only. And so you can look in the shop. Oh, you can order carpet, and you can order hardwood flooring. So you can order flooring, but you can't order lumber. Oh, and you can order regular tapes and glues and things, which little they have, right?" And he goes, "Why?" "Because we need to sustain the next 8 to 12 months before they're going to replenish us, because all the factories are down. They don't have enough employees and stuff. So I can turn around and spend 18 grand and rebuild my shed, or I can just put it off till next year and then save myself 6 grand and just do it next year." But I'm seeing that more and more. In fact, we were just at the landscaping place just the other day, and the guy was just like, "Why is it $15 a bag of mulch when it's usually $6? And it's the same thing. It's just because all the cost has gone up. So it's getting more and more difficult. And I think I'm going to start seeing a lot more people here not building anything because of it. It's just after the post-COVID that we have. But
that goes back to what we were talking about with housing too. Nothing's forever. Things will change. When demand slows up because of crappy performance, then the performance will get better and demand will, it's all market related. So whether it's housing or lumber, it's all part of what we're going through. But it's just really tough right now to try to buy a house. And you're in a great position if you're, trying to build a garage. You got to wait a year, but you still got a place to live. Mm-hmm. And that's key. And that's the part that I don't know. Maybe Blair can help us with this. I don't know financial. We had Bill on from the Federal Reserve, and he gave great insight on what he thinks is happening. And but I don't know how long this is going to last. I get that. I get asked every single day, "Alan, how long is it going to be like this?" I can't tell them. I don't know. Any insight from any of you guys on how long we're going to go through this?
Another year.
Let's talk about, Mark brings up to one point, which is cost of materials. The custom home builders have seen an average of across the nation, $24,000 per home increase just in material cost. That normally translates to a 50% increase, so about $55,000 to the price. The second thing that I think, a data point that you may or may not be aware of, all three of you, Dodge and Jeep announced yesterday that they are closing 5 plants April 15th. 5 manufacturing plants in America will close down as of April 15th, all due to that the CPU availability that goes into the cars will not be available. Where do those materials, those raw materials come from for that? That's from China. So understand the car industry, I've already gotten calls on my 2 cars. We have 2 Santa Fe's, one Santa Fe Sport, one Santa Fe, I forgot, Limited or something. But we've already got calls, them willing to buy those back from us because they have buyers for them and willing to sell us at a discounted rate, whatever. Yeah. And I'll just tell you, the car industry is going to have a very tight squeeze over the next 3, 4, 5 months because they see no opening time for these 5 plants here in America. Now, my car is built in Mexico, not here in America. How many others are being affected by this? It's going to be interesting. So we already see a market change with jobs, home values, material cost, labor. We see a dramatic, the builder industry has already stated, we are no longer paying 6%. We will pay a discounted rate to realtors bringing people to us because they know they have the supply and the demand is there. So paying realtor cost on bringing clients to them is not a big thing. So I think those data points are rather interesting, that I think we do see a longer issue time. We see some major changes in the industry. Stimulus checks have just gone out, and guess where they're going? Guess where the majority of stimulus checks are going right now? 2 places. Any ideas?
People.
Bank accounts.
They're going into purchases of technology, large TVs, so forth, or they're going into the stock market investments. Those are the 2 places they're going. And of course, that's
on the first one, but I don't see it on the second one.
What do you mean?
Well, I just don't. People that I know that have gotten their $2,400 or $1,400, they've put it in there and just spent money on the normal stuff, groceries and whatnot, bills and whatnot. But
I know what Arthur is talking about. I read a little bit too about the stock investment thing, and there are a substantial amount of people that don't need the money, but they're getting it, and they're just putting it in the stock market. That is happening. But to a couple of the other points you made, Blair, getting back to how this really affects an individual, a person that might be watching the show wanting to know when they can buy a house or when they can get a loan or whatever. I just think that, I lost my train of thought, but
old age sucks.
People are old. I tell you.
But I can remember. I forgot. My dad told me that was good.
Why'd you walk in the room, Alan?
Well, his hat does say he's like, what, 53? So I mean,
yeah.
Yes.
Thank goodness he's wearing it so he can remember.
All right, I got my thought back. Thank you for the help. So one of the points was about builders not offering realtors incentives. Okay, that's nothing new. That's been going on for 20 years. It's got to do with market and demand. You said it was high demand. That happens all the time. The builders I've been working with, I've never failed to get paid once to bring a client over there. So it's how you negotiate with the builder up front. You just got to know what you're doing. So that's that. The other thing is, it still comes down to, the Jeep factories are closing, yes, and other things are going to be closing, but that too will change. Back to Mark's point with the lumber supply in his area, demand will, it'll stop. Things will change. And when that happens, the people that can't provide will start providing because they don't have as many to provide to. It's just the way I look at things. It's a free market. Might be wrong. This might be the beginning of the end of the world as we know it. I don't know, but I still think housing is going to come back. I still think there's a lot of good things in the world we can look forward to. So,
Alan, I don't think anybody's taken away that this is going to change. This is not a downer time. It's just where we are at in the market today. What's critical that's going on, and what are the opportunities here? Because I think a lot of people listening, whether they be realtors and or possible home buyers, home sellers, you brought up a great comment. One, hey, as is, you can still get a good price for your home if you're looking to sell. And there are many people looking to sell in the next 60 to 90 days, especially they know people want to move in the summertime so they get their kids situated for school. Those things are going to open up. But two, there is a great push. Consumer confidence is still in the high 30%, the highest it's been in the last 13 months. Consumer confidence is amazing. With all of these other issues impacting us, we still have it. And here's why. If you go back in history and look at births underlying each generation, of course, we had the baby boomers, and that was a huge group and an explosion. But then in the 70s, we had a thing that changed the population growth tremendously. Do you know what happened in the 70s? What happened in 1968? Anybody know that date?
You talking about
What year?
1968.
Well, I was like in first grade.
Well, 1968 allowed for, that was the abortion rights activated. And of course, over the next 10 years, abortions were taking place. Gen Xers, it was definitely down, but now millennials are back up to almost baby boomer levels. So therefore, we have more and more people coming into the market, more and more people wanting a piece of the American dream. And they desire to purchase. Their confidence in, hey, I want a home. I want a place to raise my family. And so builders, they had a hard stop during COVID. They're trying to get rent back up. The housing bubble is really a false bubble, in my opinion. It's just going to, like Alan said, it's going to get caught up. This too will change. But what about the finance community? What about the opportunities there? There's several things with your home. Do you realize 74% of Americans can still benefit from these world record rates that we're still in, and that they can do a debt consolidation? I mean, if we look at an auto loan, if we look at credit cards, if we look at student debt, if we look at things, equity in your home, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but equity in your home, I would rather be paying a 3.5%, even though it's higher than my 2 3/4 that I bought the home on. I'd rather be paying that on all of this debt as opposed to continue to pay higher interest rates on cars, credit cards, student loan debt, that sort of thing. It just makes sense, does it not?
It makes good sense. I mean, if you don't mind using equity in your house, that's the one thing always has to be waived. It's a big deal.
And I want the equity in my house.
I do too.
I like having it. In fact, it's not that I feel like I'm ever going to get my house paid off, but if I can, using what some experience I've learned from you guys, we got a 30-year mortgage. Well, we figured in 5 to 8 years, I can turn around to a 15-year mortgage. And then maybe I can turn it to a 5 or a 10-year mortgage. So maybe instead of 30 years, I might have my house paid off in 10 to 15 years, by looking at the low interest rates. But I don't know if it'll happen, but I also know that I want equity in my house.
If I'm able to do a debt consolidation and actually save you money per month, and then you throw that on top of your monthly mortgage payment, I actually can show you ways to pay your home off like we did in less than 13 years. So out of a 30-year fix that I never refinanced, I literally paid it off in 13 years by making sure that was happening, that consolidation, because I had other things I was paying on that I was able to transfer to your mortgage, and all of a sudden the mortgage really falls down quickly. Again,
it needs to be said too to a lot of the people when they take equity out of their home, if they're in trouble with their credit cards and all other kind of debt, okay, and they do get the better loan and they consolidate all the debt, well, they're just going to get in debt again with the same bad habits and then have less equity in their home. That talk needs to be had to everybody taking equity out of their house. That's why the equity laws have changed in Texas over the years. I remember when I moved here, you couldn't even get equity out of your house in Texas. That was how it was way back when. Then they changed it, and a lot of people did it. But bad habits are bad habits, and to take good money to make it bad, it's hard to recover that for somebody that doesn't understand how to not overspend on their credit card or buy cars they don't need or
looks like we lost him.
Things like that. So once the equity out of the crate again, so I think that's a risk.
I agree with that a little bit, because I feel like that. I think families have to go through turmoil. They have to really hit the bottom line before they finally go, we got to change. And I hate to put it that way, but people don't want to change if they know they've got money and stuff they can spend out there. They'll just continue to do it. They'll live check by check and pay what they got to pay to keep it going. But until they hit rock bottom, now I'm not saying they lose their house and their cars and all that stuff, but until they hit rock bottom, it's hard for them to make the change.
I grew up in it, and we never learned, when I was a little kid. So I'm just going from experience.
I agree. One of the things that is critical, and we talked about it last week with the Fed being on, inflation. Inflation really is going to cause a lot of issues in the coming months, because inflation is based on how they manage inflation is based on a revolving or moving 12-month average. That 2% that they're hoping for, we're going to exceed that by May. And we're probably going to exceed it by April at 2.1, but we're going to really jump in May because we had a -1 a year ago, and we're going to probably be in a +2 relationship. So all of a sudden, we're going to be sitting and floating over 2.4% in inflation. That's an estimate. But the bottom line is managing this, and they've already shot all the bullets in their gun that they have as the Fed. Inflation's going to bite us, and it's going to continue to. So you're right. People are going to be dealing with consequences of their actions, like spending stimulus checks on 60-inch TVs or that comfortable lounge chair that you just got to have, that lazy boy. But the bottom line of it is we've got to give them options on how they can best utilize. And one of the greatest things that they have in their house is their equity in their home and how to use it properly. Now, I would hope, yes, Alan, anybody that has gone through or are looking for opportunity, how to manage that, they're talking to some people that can help them and talking about all the options, not just the impact. If we go back, I mean, our own government did our U.S. citizens a terrible thing in the stimulus program by bringing forbearance. Would you agree with that, Tom? Is that a touchy subject or what? But forbearance is going to be a major issue later this year if they don't either add extensions or they don't unwind it gently. A lot of people that went into forbearance and don't understand that they owe a lump sum at the end of it, they're going to be struggling because 78% of the people never come out of forbearance. Never. And there's over almost 4 million people in forbearance right now.
You know, the one thing that part of this forbearance piece is about is that really the government type loans were the ones they pinpointed. They'll put that payment that's due at the end of the transaction. Now, that is good, bad, and different. I saw this during the 2008-9 period, and it helped people keep their homes. I had a good friend of mine, Natalie, down in Waxahachie, and she ran into the same situation. She could not make her house payments. She was able to put those payments off until after the recovery. You know, in 2011 or 12, she was finally able to sell her house, and she walked away with some money, even though that money was repaid at that time. So it's possible that it can work, but it's anytime you put off your payment, man, there's just consequences because it'll freeze up your ability to buy another house right
or
there.
refinance.
And it closes the door on lots of stuff that you would think that it's all positive and maybe unicorns and rainbows, but it's one of those things that the end result really causes consternation with getting yourself back on your feet once everything's kind of leveled back into a playing field. So, yeah.
Good words. And again, the later this year, those forbearance issues are coming. If they had a 12-month, could have a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month, or 12-month, but that is going to come to a head. And I am not sure what they're going to do. Normally, again, those come due at the end of the forbearance period. Being able to put at the end of the loan itself, as you stated, Tom, governmental, they have the choice or the option to do that, but it does have to be negotiated. You cannot ignore a phone call. You cannot ignore a letter. You have to make action. And if you don't take action, guess what? Foreclosure is coming soon after. And that's the fear that so many people don't seem to understand, is that this is a serious situation, not an easy situation to work through, not negotiable when they're coming knocking at your door. You need to be proactive.
That 78% is a huge number.
Huge number.
Yeah.
Historically, 78 never come out. Never.
And I wonder if that's part of the pitch, when they're in there struggling. I mean, they have to, the forbearance, I mean, it's on every realtor board I'm reading. It's on other things I'm reading. Some realtors think there's going to be more inventory come on the market.
Oh, there is.
Yeah. And some think, no, the government will come to the rescue and fix it all and all that stuff. So, it's 78%. And
Can I ask a question on that? I want to be, since I play in the finance world, as they say, I want to know, how does the government come to the rescue when they don't make any money except they print it? They spend our money very freely. How do they come to the rescue when they continually spend our money that my grandchildren are going to have to pay back? They cannot continue to do that. And so I just challenge, when are we going to stay up your big boy britches and take responsibility for the actions, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever those are? I didn't like going through bankruptcy. And in lieu of foreclosure, I turned over my home again. I went through all that. And that was, the 2005 period. The bottom line is, I made poor decisions and I paid the price. We have to take personal responsibility, and I'm tired of the government. And I'm sorry to get on my soapbox, but I am tired of our government being expected to step in. If they ever forgive student loans, I'm going to be so irritated.
Well, you might as well get irritated. They're getting ready to, some of it.
Like I said, I'm going to get irritated. I mean, I'm crazy with this stuff. So I hope people understand you have options. You need to attack the situation and understand it, and understand your options and make your decision. You do not need to sit back and say, hey, the government needs to take care of me. I hope that's not the feeling out there. I really do.
Your opinion that when people sign the final docs to get the forbearance rolling, that they don't understand what they're signing?
I would say 90% of them do not understand, and it was so easily done. It was so easy to sign up for. They didn't understand it. That's why I put out a video that explained it to people. And I had multiple clients calling me, no, we didn't do it. You said that. We understood it. We asked some key questions about it, what it meant to us. They started asking questions, and it put people on the spot. But banks were there to try to help, and they made it so simple. They didn't explain the situation. And they didn't understand it, but all of a sudden they saw, hey, I get to live rent-free in my home for 9 or 12 months. I'm taking it. And I've got extra money to spend. That's why Nebraska Furniture Mart went nuts. I mean, do you realize during COVID, Nebraska Furniture Mart was one of the most profitable places to work for? And people were buying TVs, sofas, bedroom sets, all of this. Where did this money come from? It wasn't a stimulus check. It was because they weren't paying their mortgage. And all of a sudden now it's going to come due, as they say, knock, 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 you owe us this. What are you going to do? And the habit of people is to ignore those things. Ignore those collection calls, ignore those mail, ignore that, hoping it will go away or it will change or it will do. This is not going to change. This is your mortgage. This is the home you live in, your kids grow up in. You need to take care of it. And it's going to come to a head, I think, midsummer to late summer. Tom, would you agree with that at the most?
Timing wise, it'll be kind of a trickle effect at first, and then it'll be more of a waterfall. So you're just going to have to see that eventuality that we are going to have to, pull ourselves up in a position and say, the one thing we never address is, how does the government pay its bills? Well, it does one of two things. It collects
it never pays its bills.
It collects its taxes, or it makes more money.
Yeah.
Those are the two places. That's it. That's all we've got is increased revenue, or the fact we can make more money. And so we don't
worry about inflation.
So for 25 years, we pretty much randomly, and this is consistent, 25 years, we've grown and grown and grown our national debt. And, I'm in the same ilk boat that inflation is a concern. particularly when you have a broken supply chain like we've got. And Mark's earlier comments about his story about, constructing something, finding, I would assume there are a lot of trees around you, Mark.
Cut them down.
It's not a shortage of the trees. It's a shortage of the plants not being able to get the people there to chop them down and do all this stuff. It's not, the abundance of the materials is there. Yeah.
But spend your money on chainsaws and lathes so that you can create your own lumber.
Well, you guys haven't talked about this topic, but something that kind of irks me on I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but forbearance is one of those. The other one is I've had two friends lately have bought homes, and both of them were in the Texas area, but they purchased, one was like 38,000 over the asking price, and the other one was almost 70,000 over the asking price. So my thing is like, okay, so you wanted the house because there's nothing else out there, and you wanted that house, right? So your house is worth 400,000, but now you have 480,000 in the house. What's going to happen 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road when they end up wanting to sell the house and they realize, well, I got $500,000 in my house, but it's only worth $350,000 or $400,000. I still lost 80,000-90,000 plus everything I put into it. And I've seen some of these go up to 100,000. I'm like, how? What's going to happen to them later on when they try to sell the house? And I want to get into a real $500,000 house, but I owe $480,000 in my home.
Well, you're only going to owe 80,000 since you sold it for 4, and but yeah, you've got to be careful in your over asking price. That's why you need to contact somebody like me that I can give you an estimate on your payback in 5 years. Is it worth it? Paying 20,000 extra on this home? I've got a son in Houston that did exactly that, and like Alan stated, I'm going to pay this price no matter what the appraisal. I waived the option period, all to win the bid. Now, he's going to get a payback in 3 years. He'll see that growth, the equity in that home grow, the appreciation value in 3 years. So he'll be fine. But if you're paying 80,000 over, you're looking down the road, you may never reach that, or you will reach that in a 10 to 14 year, 15 year period. The bottom line of it is we do not, because of the laws that Alan brought out, we protect the equity in homes. Therefore, the values don't move like they move around on the East and West Coast as opposed to here. Is that correct, Tom? Am I stating this properly?
Well, I would say that intrinsically a lot of our values in Texas itself are somewhat more protected, but the challenge you run into in this type of situation was our very first, how you start off the very first conversation. People paying massive amounts of cash over and above what would normally be the standard expected market value of a property. How do you recover that? Well, if you go back to the 2006 and 7 period, people were at that juncture where they were paying premium prices here in Texas. And we saw a lot of homes because of that. They weren't able to resell those homes until 2014 and break even. And that's the inflated part that gets built into it. If you survive buying a house way over market, can I maintain it and keep it and continue making the payments for that period of time with hopefully not getting eaten up by other things that might eat up my dollar? And again, comes back to inflation and other things that come back to eat up our dollar on a daily basis.
You brought up a great point. Are you staying in that home? And my son, I had a conversation with him. He's planning on 18 years in that home. So that's worth it to him. And the 20,000, he says, hey, I'm having 4 children. I'm on my 2nd right now. I'm having 3 more. 18 years minimum in this home.
Wait, that's 5, just to do the math there, just to let you.
I think seriously, there's more money in the market right now.
No one's in the oven.
Oh, okay.
The buyer,
Tom missed that one.
Now I got the math.
Well, I get the whole thing. We stayed 13 years in our last house and it paid off. When we first moved in, we were over. The neighborhood was being brand new. and there was only like 2 or 3 homes being built. So people were putting their $1,000 interest money down and putting the weight on the homes. When we first put our money down, we lost that home within 2 hours. So we had to find another home on the same property. So when we did it, we were like, okay, we can't do this for a 5 or 10 year thing. This has to be how long is it going to take us to get the money back so we can have equity in this house? So when we decided we want to upgrade or downgrade, we've got equity in the house. But it took us 13 years to get to that point because we were looking at like 8 years of moving. This was like in 2012, 2013. It just wasn't the right time. We couldn't get the money for the house, and everything was just going to balance out. And there was just no way we could spend another $100,000 for a bigger home and keep our living expenses where we needed to be. So we stayed. But when we moved in 2019, we hadn't looked at all. We had no clue what the house was worth. We had no clue where it was. But we did good because in 13 years, our equity went up $100,000 from our house. So we did good selling the house at the time, but it took us 13 years for it to just slowly trickle its way up.
We're a year down the road from this pandemic, and there's a lot of factors in play here. I think, one, people have more money that are buying the homes. There's less homes available. Thus, the people that are buying them have the money. And they're saving money by not having to go to work. They don't have to drive. They don't have the tollways. They don't have all the other stuff going on. So now you're making equal to or greater than money, and your home is more important than ever. And the people that can afford to make the move are the ones that are getting the homes. So there's more variables. I remember in 2006 or 7 when I bought my home, we bought at the peak just before the tump. I'm in the business. I should have known. Well, you don't know. Nobody can predict anything accurately, exactly. But yeah, the value of our house went down initially, but then, of course, all these years later, we're great. But today, a year into this, factors have changed. There's more money right now than I've ever seen with people buying homes. I've never seen it like this. They can afford easily to do $50,000 over out of their bank account, or they're not looking to move like Blair or Tom or somebody was saying about right away. They're, my God, we're going to work here. We're going to live here. This is what I want. I want this pool. I want the staycation type thing, and that's the excitement and what I'm seeing in buyers today. And believe me, if you can't go to the table to buy a house right now in Dallas Fort Worth and not expect to go over list, sometimes way over list, you're not going to get the home. And that's just a simple fact. There's a lot of passion right now, but like Tom said earlier, the market's going to adjust. There are a few of these people that are going to be like, maybe they lost their job, or maybe they're going to get a divorce, or maybe something's going to change in their life. And now they can't make the payment, and they need out of the house. And now they don't have enough equity in the house to get out of the house because they're still paying on how much they overpaid for it. So that too is going to happen again. But I can't tell you when. I can't tell any of my clients when. But I can tell you this, all of you. My clients ask me every day, when is this going to stop? Every single day. I hear that every day.
2 years from now, we'll still be talking about it.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I'm serious. I mean, everybody's saying, 3, 6, 12 months, but
if you don't have a home, it's tragic. Trust me.
Yeah, because I mean, even though I'm looking next year to build something, I look at in 6 months, everything may get back to some normalcy. But it's going to take 2 years for the entire economy across the nation to get back to whatever normalcy that we're going to be at that time, from hiring employees to getting staff back on there to lumber yards, getting the things built in the industry, getting back to its normalcy.
Yeah.
It's just
I don't believe we'll ever be back to normal, what we consider normal a year over a year. It'll be a new normal. I don't know what it will look like, but I think this is a transition that we have to understand. It will never get back to that, in my opinion.
You're the perfect example of what you said earlier, and it caught my attention. You have 13 pre-approvals that are 60 to 90 days old. I'm sure a couple of them are mine. And it's frustrating for me. It's frustrating for you. And if you think it's frustrating for us, think about those people that are living in their apartment complex with an extra kid now, or they're renting a home from somebody and they're like, boy, we can buy a house if we could just get a house.
No, the one that's happy here is Tom, who has all the inventory of rental properties. He's going, yes, sign on. We're going to add 5%. We got you for another year. And I can already look at him. I mean, that's why he's got Abe dressing up in the background. I mean, my goodness.
So I respect Tom Cuban. Tom Cuban is just, I respect him.
Well, it's interesting because there's a gentleman that I met here. He's been buying up a lot of property because the properties have gone down in value on some of the older cabins, and he's buying them cheap. And he bought 6 or 7 of them just last week to be able to turn them into Airbnbs or turn them into rental because they've been sitting there for 6 months to a year vacant, and so they're wasting time. But he can buy them for pennies on the dollar, turn around, put a couple $1,000s in them, turn around and give it to a company to say, hey, go rent them out.
You're not good at that unless you do it the way Tom's done it over all the years. These guys buy at opportune times. They know what they're doing. They don't overpay. And but a lot of people can't do that. Investing in real estate is not as simple as some people make it look. It's just not.
Well, and there's the other thing too, is like in my area, there's a lot of land. And I have been paying attention because there's acreage around me. Now, fortunately, no one's bought the acreage around me yet, but I would love to be the opportunity to be able to buy some of it because like a gentleman that had 800 acres down there, he's already split it all off because somebody said, hey, I'll give you top dollar for 100 acres. And then somebody else said the same thing. Now all he's got is like 60 or 160 acres, I think, left. One guy owns all the other acres. And he's got to build these little subdivisions. I just want the land around me so nobody buys and builds a home there. I like the space.
And just
like your neighbors far away. Is that what you're saying?
Well, so my neighbors are really the closest one's a mile away, but I don't want them to be, 4 acres away from me.
You just want to keep it that way. Hey, guys, we have gone over our time. We appreciate. Find us at KVGI Media on YouTube and/or Facebook. Write your comments. Support us, like us, share us. We appreciate. And again, our next show should be, if I'm not mistaken, guys, it's going to be April 14th. And we're not sure of the topic. Share if you have something key that you'd like us to talk about. Again, the market is a great market still. Rates are still historical lows. There's opportunities. Please give us a call, any one of us, Alan, Tom, or myself. And Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for letting me be on.
I'm Blair Thomas.
I'm Tom Holm.
Alan Pace.
God bless. Y'all have a great day.